Well, good morning, friends. I just had my meeting with the best reported and most experienced well digger, Wayne Markart, and his son Brad. Wayne came down. Uh, there, what I see why they have that reputation already, just by how honest they are and straightforward with me. Um, but I will try and relay my conversation. This is that I had with Wayne Markart. Uh, they've got drilling in the family, goes back I think 5 generations. Uh, they've got some of the best equipment around. Um, their reputation precedes them. Everyone that all the professionals that I work with here and talk to, highly recommend them. So that's their reputation precedes them. Uh, but as the story goes with any well digger right now, these areas, number one, are really difficult. The type of rock, the layers, how deep they have to go, that kind of thing. It's not the ideal well digging area. So that's come through from different approximations and quotes and companies and so on. Wayne stressed, he said, there's no way that a well digger can be 100% sure what they're going to charge because they don't know what they're going to hit. They can be kind of roughly approximating, but um, they can come up against all kinds of little surprises going down, especially that deep. You can have lots of sand where you need casing. You could be lucky and hit rocks sooner. You could, like you said, there's all kinds of different things that you can come across, and there's different techniques and ways of working around those things. But it is a big job, and aside from that, everyone is so busy because everyone's moving up here, and a lot of people have a lot more money than I do. Like I'm scraping the bottom of the jar to come up with roughly what I'm hoping will cover it, which is sort of 25 to 30,000. Now they have clients that are getting 5, 6, 7, 8 wells dug, and they don't care what it costs. They got all the money in the world, and whether a person likes that or not, or they can't afford to just say, well, I like this person more, screw these guys. They have to go where the money is. They have to have that. Anyone would have to have that foundation to keep them busy. But they're overworked. Everyone's overworked out here. Uh, and the honest truth is, they may not be able to even fit me in this year. And like Wayne said, if you can find someone else that's good, I wouldn't hold it against you. Like they can do it before the summer's over. And I mentioned to Wayne, I said, well, I've gotten reviews from a number of people who say you're the best, and I would prefer to go with someone that I've heard good references of. But at the same time, I would like to get it in this year, and everyone knows why. If anyone watching that doesn't, aside from just, I would like to have water flowing, and eventually get a toilet and have a flushing toilet and have hot and cold water, that sort of thing. Run a bath. Uh, my wife Raven, who was diagnosed with cancer somewhat recently during lockdown, and it's a fairly aggressive form of cancer. We're doing our own form of treatments, and like anything, you never know. Anyone knows how long they have, um, and every moment that you do have is you consider it a blessing. Now, Raven has to live away from here because she needs all those amenities. That was a loud chipmunk. Uh, so she has to stay where she can have all those services, flushing toilet and hot and cold water and reasonably comfortable house. And basically I'm not going to be getting Raven back here until those conditions are met. So now that I have the hydro in, that's a biggie. I got my trailer that's hooked up to the hydro. So the next most important thing above and beyond the septic is the well. And it's a biggie. And Wayne even mentioned, he said he's seen grown men cry when they get the price of a well, because you just can't tell. And it's a big price for some people. And I will not lie, I have crash landed. I don't want to pat myself in the back too much, but I think I guided the plane fairly well for my emergency landing. And I'm in very good spirits most of the time, as far as I even see the beauty in and simplicity in building from the ground up. A graceful landing, and then using my creativity and my positive focus to, and everything I've learned from any mistakes that I might have made. I mean, what can you do in a case like COVID? No one could have predicted that. I could say that I was living a little bit beyond my means. Everyone's encouraged to do that with credit cards and stuff. I can point at little things, but ultimately it happened. But the message I got from it, what is the message? One of them is to simplify, is to create. If I use the metaphor of a vessel, like my ship, if I don't want my ship to capsize in a big storm that may not happen, but could, maybe it's better that I build that ship or rebuild that ship so it can handle those rough waters, but it can also handle some dry spells. So what I'm doing is I'm creating my ship now from the ground up, starting on the hull, and I am paying close attention intuitively from everything I've learned and from any insights I get, from any higher forces within myself or beyond. I am just putting everything into not doing anything that I had felt was important before. I'm looking at brand new, fresh new reevaluation of everything, like right into my spiritual core. What is important? What isn't important? Because I want to throw out that which is not important and keep that, or bring in that which is important. And I think my water is good for coffee here. So that's what I'm doing right now. Definitely the hydro was important, although I would have loved to have done the off-grid thing. And it's not out of the question. Down the road, I'd like to work towards that. I had to get hydro, I decided. It was the cheaper option at this point. Eventually, I'd like to get solar and other ways of cutting my hydro costs. Because just because I have that hydro hookup doesn't mean I want to just go crazy using it. So I want to be, really cautious with my money and my spending and my costs. I don't want to go into the old habits that we've all been encouraged to do with credit cards and things. I'm actually going to try not going into any debt, or very minimal debt. And we'll go from there. So as you can imagine, coming back to this well digging situation, how do you, well, on the one hand, there's the, can it even be done this winter, or before the winter? Which I will admit, it takes, I lost a little bit of sleep last night knowing that Wayne was coming and dreading what I was going to hear, because I kind of know the reality already from chatting with people. So my biggest fear is not getting the well in at all this year. My second fear is the cost and being able to afford it. It's two big ones. It's 2 very big, scary things. I will admit it. You know, I'm an adult, grown man, and if anything would make me feel like the emotions of, you know, that brings up tears and fearful thoughts, this would be one of them for sure. You know, basically the survival details. You know, am I going to be able to keep myself warm for the winter? Am I going to be able to have running water? Am I going to be able to have, you know, electrical, whatever? So those are the basic survival needs that when you're buying a house, you get a mortgage, which I've done many times. The big scary thing is the whole, did I buy the right house? You know, am I going to get a mortgage? Okay, I got a mortgage. Blah blah blah. Oh, I now I've got this big bill to pay. But that was always the scary part. There was always water. There was, you know, always, you know, the bathrooms and kitchen, everything was in. We didn't have to deal with trying to put it all together. Now it's a whole new experience, and I will admit the reason why I've never come up to this before is because I found it very intimidating. Everyone said building a house, doing this from scratch, was you never knew what you're going to spend, and you always end up spending more than you think. That scares me. Uh, Money scares me. Lack of money scares me. The idea, like when it gets into hundreds of thousands of dollars, I won't lie, it scares the hell out of me. And I've surfed that wave many times, and I think I've done fairly well. Uh, that model that was painted for most of us, you know, get your mortgage, do your this, get your credit cards, buy this, buy that. Most people went in that direction, like me. Hello, little chipper. Um, that's my pine needle tea that I was working on earlier. But yeah, I'm not buying into that game anymore. I saw it clearly during lockdown, and I'm not going to knock it. It worked for me for a long time. I had a great, I don't know, 40 years of work in my business doing exactly that, you know, just living a little bit beyond my means and pulling myself to catch up to that over time, and it worked. You know, anytime I got stuck with a little bit of extra money to owe, I just put in, as long as I was willing to put in extra hours, I was able to do it. And I could pay that bill off or whatever and go, okay, I paid that off in 6 months. That was great. That was you know, it was a lot of work doing those extra shifts, but I enjoy my work. I love what I do. I love my people that I work with. I have a lifetime of memories shared with people and their healings that doesn't compare to anything. And I would never trade it for anything. I do not regret my life at all. But I am now in a place where the message that comes to me is simplify, find new ways of living. And they're not different than ways that I wanted to. They just always seemed like a dream that I could never reach. You know, I always loved wilderness. I always loved, I mean, right from when I joined Junior Forest Rangers when I was 17 years old, worked for a summer getting that kind of work experience with a whole bunch of 17-year-olds. God, it was one of the best times of my life. Out in Tobermory, thought for the longest time one day I was going to live in Tobermory because it was such an amazing experience. Then I joined Katimavik when I was 18. Traveled all around Canada. Had some great wilderness experiences. I've done canoe trips from Labrador to Quebec. I have a great love for nature. But at the same time, when I was a teenager, you know, I want to go to Ontario College of Art, become a great artist. And I did all those things, and I loved the city, and as long as it served me. But then as I got older, those desires to be out in the wilderness got stronger and stronger, and gradually led me further away from the city. And I love it. I love it out here. Sometimes I kind of question the winter part of it, but even that has its strange kind of beauty. And yeah, so I have crash landed, I feel, in the most beautiful spot that I could crash land. And I feel that considering my challenges that I had, maybe I gotta just get cream for my coffee, so I'll just walk you through with my tripod while I chat. So I feel that considering my challenges, I did some people might say stupid things. I'll just say I had to make some choices that were beyond my ability to guarantee. But then that's all part of life experience, right? You got to take risks. And I don't regret that. But 5 years ago, Raven and I moved way out. I figured, I moved to Fergus, which was an hour and a half drive from Toronto, and my business actually went up. I was nervous when I did that move. And I was afraid that I had done the worst thing and I would have to keep going to Toronto to work. And my business went up, as I mentioned, and please don't be sour. Oh, good. There we go. That's okay, coffee. I just tried a different coffee that it was at the store, a local coffee. Doesn't blow me away, but it's not bad. But anyways, where was I? So yeah, we moved away out here. I thought more people would come out this far because of my understanding and development of Soulprint experience is that your experience, or where you have your experience, how you get there, is kind of a pilgrimage, and it adds to your healing experience, the Soulprint experience. So for me, this was taking it the next step. I went too big for what my dreams were. I wasn't able to adjust from the demands in Fergus, where like a large house, lots of rooms so I can have people stay. Maybe we'll run a bed and breakfast. There were all these considerations, but it just didn't work out. And we ran the bed and breakfast, but it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be doing my tattoos, and over time I wanted to be able to slow down a little bit on the tattooing so I could do a few other things as well. Never stopping tattooing, because it is my deepest love. And I love my people. I love getting to know someone on that kind of level, sharing with people that come to me who don't, for those of you that don't know, people that come to me, there's people who come celebrating an event in their life, a change, a marriage, birth of a child. And then there's people who come to me, and quite often they're the same people at another stage in their life, when someone's died, someone very important in their life, or they almost died, or they're fighting cancer, or some big challenge that they need to overcome. So I am so grateful to be able to have had those experiences with people, those deep, intimate healing experiences. And I know, because I've had plenty of my own, and I think everyone has, those moments are when you get shaken to your core. But what I've learned from all these experiences is it's also the most sacred moment possible, because that's when all of your conditioning, all of those layers, all those shells that are restricting and constricting are blasted open for a very short while. I've noticed that as well. If someone doesn't work with that and cultivate a new way of being, the tendency is to just shrink back into the old mold, and in some cases, shrink back tighter. And then you get other conditions, whether it's PTSD or other conditions that make someone tend to get more fearful and more restricted in their flow of being, of their true, the true wellspring from within that each person has, and all their potentials, whether they meet them in their life or not. That's what the Soul Print session is largely about, is people in these cases where people have gone through something intense, they come to me at that time, right in that difficult, painful sometimes time. And what's even more painful would be to spend that time with someone in such an intimate way and, in essence, bare your soul. It doesn't mean people necessarily have to tell me their stories, but it's the essence. And some people do tell me their stories, many do, because there is a therapeutic aspect to just letting it out, downloading, releasing, and to someone who you feel really comfortable with and connected with, but yet at the same time, they're not a family member or a friend that you're interacting with all the time. Kind of a distant friend, if you want to call my relationship with my people, my friends. And there's something really powerful about that. I mean, would I like to right now be able to go to a person like me for a soul print and have that done and just let go and let that person's wisdom guide me a little bit and into tuning into my own wisdom, possibly, quite possibly, when I'm feeling the least like I have it? Because in these challenging times, a lot of the time, all your negativity will come up, and it helps to have someone guide you through this and to not clamp down on it even more, and to learn how to release it. And even that is not a generic thing. It's not like a formula. Each person, actually, it's funny, as a metaphor, just thinking about Wayne and him describing all the challenges you come up against when you're drilling a well. You don't know what you're going to hit. And at each layer, you hit different things and different surprises. And it could be a whole big surprise at 115 feet that you never expected. A certain boulder the size of my little truck brings up a whole new set of challenges. Or he was saying that sometimes you can get a rock and it's like this. So when your thing is trying to cut through that, break through that, it's bouncing off the rock. I think that's very much a great metaphor in some ways for people working on themselves, both in the sense that we don't know what all our conditioning is. We don't know as it's being broken down and we're possibly finding our deeper self what we're going to hit. So you could be in a soul print session and at one stage you're going through a layer that's reasonably easy to release and you're feeling wonderful, and then you hit some kind of rock and suddenly you feel horrible, of some kind of discomfort, emotional discomfort, not the physical pain of the tattoo, although that can draw this out like a magnet with iron filings. And it's an aspect of the therapeutic value of why a tattoo is not just a tattoo. It never was just a tattoo until Western commercialization took over the tattooing market. And even when in many cases, tattooists, because I wouldn't call them tattoo artists, who want it just to be a tattoo. That's either their fear speaking because they don't feel adequate enough to provide anything more than uh, just attitude in general, lack of depth. But I think most of the time it would be more of a fearful thing. Because I think a lot, speaking about tattoo artists, I think a lot of them have a lot more potential than even they realize. I always wanted to run a tattoo school, and that was part of why I got the big house. It was so I could start bringing in people, class of 10 people, and we just work on the depth of philosophy and technique as well, but a lot more emphasis on the experience to offer people. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to digress too much. These are all topics for other videos. But it's interesting just on the well digging, what comes to me and kind of aligns, resonates with that, which that conversation I was just having with Wayne. So yeah, I'm building from the ground up. I'm doing my best to meditate and stay tuned into and recognize layers as I come through them and recognize what needs to be thrown away, what needs to be kept. Trying to be good to myself, trying not to be hard on myself, because a lot of challenges right now. Not easy decisions to be making at each moment. Very easy to get fearful at times. Winter is coming, you could say. And the summer goes way all too quickly when you're having fun. So ultimately, at the moment, as far as I can comprehend, all I want is to get that well dug and some little area that can be kept above 32 degrees so the water doesn't freeze. Doesn't have to be a whole living space yet. But basically, for now, to get through the winter is a warm place to live that has running water and electricity. That will do it. And in that, not just for me and Raven to live, but it allows, well, for my chickens, my dogs, but most importantly, above and beyond that, is to have an environment for my clients to come for the soul print experience. And what I love about it is I don't mind the slightly more challenging environment that I want to provide for my clients. For sure, coming in the summer is going to be the best time. But for some people, using a compost toilet is not a common thing. I'm definitely going to recommend to people that they stay at a B&B just down the road here. My sister and mother stayed there a few times and they love it there. So I can definitely recommend the place based on other people's references. And it's just a 5-minute drive around here. Other people who want it, the experience, they can tent, they can camp here. Share my experience with me. I'd love just a visitor to chat with. So I can't wait to get things opened up. In that sense, I just can't wait to get back into that flow, although it's going to be very different. I've been doing this for 40 years with no break, no big break. And now to have a year, more or less, of not tattooing has been very difficult on other levels, aside from financial. And I just can't wait to get back into feeling that flow of what I am meant to be doing. And I'm meant to be taking that further now. I know that. You know, the universe has definitely spoken to me, not so subtly. And I get the message. And I'm up for it. You know, I'm leaning into the brambles because I recognize that that's where the power is to be released and accessed. It's where it's been trapped. All my little fears are hiding something, trying to protect me from it. Nature has definitely been calling to me. Like, for example, just the other day, you tell me, I'm not going to tell you, you tell me about how you would interpret this. Was this a little bit of divinity coming through, like a little sun ray through the clouds? I had Dougie's boys were digging the trench for, or no, actually, they were filling in the trench. Oh no, they were doing both. They were digging and filling in the trench for the electrical cables, and they had to take off a couple of limbs from this pine tree, which I knew had to come off anyways for snow plowing and other things, because it would, those limbs were scraping any vehicle that came in that was a little taller than a car. And so they took off those two limbs from my pine tree, and I saw the limbs on the, I pulled them into a little pile, and I was looking at them, and I thought, oh, you know, I snapped back to a video that I went through a phase where I was watching a lot of Arthur Haynes YouTube videos, and if you're interested in anything like what I'm going to talk about, definitely look him up. His background is in oh gosh, it's like a historical biology kind of thing, whatever that's called. So like the history of humans and how they use things, you know, whether it was indigenous people of Canada and farming wild rice, for example, or in this case, pine. Hey, you got a big piece of that bread that got stolen from my kitchen. Huh. And now you're eating it in front of me. Crazy guy. So anyways, what was I just talking about? Damn, I lost my train of thought there. Squirrel. I'll blame it on the squirrel. But, oh yes, so the pine boughs were on the ground. Arthur Haynes stuff came to me where he was, a video specifically where he was sitting in a little little snow cave and drinking pine needle tea and talking about